You are now about to witness the strength of street.
So Jared's coming. Swing low, swing low.
Here we are live representing. Got my man Jason representing right here for Polar Bears and Pop Culture Shop. Y'all see it? Look at that joint right there.
The almighty
Polar Bear Pop Culture Shop.
Yeah.
That's what's up, Jay.
first episode. Nice.
Yeah, yes, sir. Man, thank you for giving us time and taking out for your busy day, especially. I got to give y'all that.
Yeah, we'll be picking up soon. So.
Man, couple questions for you, if you don't mind, if I could get these out. So tell me a little bit about how you got started with the store.
Man, it's a long story. I'll keep the short version. Early like 2000s, we're talking beginning in like eBay. I was doing side hustle stuff, buying lots, doing yard sales, doing getting comic books, toys, and kind of put them on eBay. This before like digital, like you had to take a picture of the item and put them on there. So I was doing that a little bit, and then I found out about the Brass Armadillo like 2006. Started selling in there, doing comic books, toys. Same thing, hit up yard sales, all that stuff, come up on that. So side hustle, I always wanted to work for myself, but I didn't know like what I wanted to do. So I was always thinking maybe a comic book store, and then later on it kind of evolved as we kept going along. So I was doing that, and then 2020, decided to do my own toy show. After doing like the local ones, because the local ones they only had like 2 every year, and I would save up stuff for that and do good there, but then there was nowhere else to sell after that. So I decided, why not do my own thing? So decided to do that, branched out, did one 2020 in January, and then the pandemic happened, so that kind of killed that. Meanwhile, I had switched my job to the post office, and I was kind of getting burnt out there. So then 2021, I decided I'm done there. So left. Wasn't sure what I was gonna do, but I was still selling on the side. So I was kind of doing that while I was figuring stuff out. Then I used the money from the post office that I had saved up, half the budget of what I originally wanted to, but I had some money there, so I kind of used that and decided I wanted to do this. Meanwhile, I had talked to James about it because I wanted to partner up with somebody, you know, that was like-minded and kind of wanted to do the same thing, because James was kind of doing the same thing too. So he was more into it. He wasn't side hustling. He was really hustling. He was doing it on eBay. They were doing shows. He was hitting up the swap and all that. So we kind of had the same mindset. So kind of talked to him about it and decided, you know, let's do it. So we kind of partnered up.
Okay.
And opened this one in February of 2021, February 28th to be exact. And now we're 2 years deep.
Okay. That's what's up, man.
That's a shorter version. It could be longer. There's a lot of stuff in between.
No. You could actually speak however you want.
But I mean, that's the gist of it. That's kind of how I wanted it.
What's the name of the toy show?
Oh, Epic Toy Show. Yeah, I started the Epic Toy Show.
Okay.
2020, like I said. We're doing shows every 3 or 4 months.
Question for you now. You're talking about the Epic Toy Show now, and thank you for sharing that information about the as far as how you started out with the foundation and everything. Tell me a little bit now about the Epic Toy Show. Like, what's all involved? Like, for example, what gave you that idea for the name?
The name, it was kind of, I was just trying to think of something that would be like big, you know, it's a big thing, it's an event, so I was like, epic is a good word to use, so that's just kind of where I came up with that. But there was a need for more toy shows. Like I said, the other toy show was only doing 2 a year, and one of them wasn't even in Phoenix, it was in Tucson, so doing one big one in Glendale, so there was only 2 shows a year. So vendors that wanted to sell more, they had no options, so that's what it would be. Every time I would do a show, people would ask, hey, do you know of any other toy shows? And the answer was always no. Tucson was doing some little small stuff, but other than in the valley, there was nothing going on.
Right.
Other than Comic-Con, which, you know, that's comics and stuff. There'd be some comic book shows, but mainly for toy vendors and like pop culture vendors, nothing was going on. So I decided, you know, look into it, found a nice venue, kind of figured out the numbers with that, kind of went from there. So we just been building every time we have a show, plan on getting better and better, learn from stuff, you know, that didn't work out, and kind of keep going with stuff.
Right.
That worked out.
Yeah, so you just like live and learn and everything. So the milestones that you mentioned was February 28th, 2021 was the start of the for the store.
Yeah.
And then also, was it the same year also you said for the Epic show?
The Epic Show was prior to me even having a shop. I was still at the post office, and it was going to be like a side thing I would do every once in a while. Again, we did it in 2020, January 2020, and then you know what happened a few months after that was the pandemic kind of.
And then tell me a little bit how people could get in contact with you. Like, for example, like, well, we're going to talk about as far as about the location of the store. We'll do that later.
Yeah.
But the next, how about if, like, let's say about vendors, how they can get started with you at the Epic Show?
They can reach out on Instagram or Facebook. So Instagram is going to be Polar Bears Pop Culture Shop on Instagram.
Yep.
We don't have one for the show. We kind of run both of them through that one. And then Facebook does have its own Epic Toy Show and Polar Bears Pop Culture Shop. But you can go through there and message us through there. That's the easiest way.
Okay, and then that's what's up. And we're going to include the links as well on our channel. We're also going to include the links as well on the Polar Bears. Now, you were talking, now you mentioned about the pop culture.
Yeah.
Explain to me a little bit more about the pop culture. What it all entails and everything.
Yeah, so even coming up with the name, it's Polar Bears Pop Culture Shop. Pop culture is, everything popular culture. So we didn't want to just be toys limited to just that. So we have records here, we have comic books, we have Pokemon cards, some non-sports cards, a little bit of clothing, just a little bit different stuff other than just toys. Video games, like we didn't want to just limit it to one thing. We wanted to be pop culture, which is kind of inclusive. We have artwork, stuff like that.
So you got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this pop culture movement, I can tell, is really huge, and especially now with you in the Valley doing it, because you said, like you mentioned, there was no other places that were doing it except down in Tucson, and then you are one of the first, the OGs here, up here in the Valley with everything. That's what's up. Now let's talk about as far as like you getting into the business as far as owning figurines. How long have you been collecting figurines?
Well, it started in the 80s pretty much. I mean, it wasn't collecting then it was playing with the stuff. Everything that came out, like I wanted to have it, so I would always ask. I didn't always get it, but all the toys, 80s was where it was at for toys, like all the cool stuff I think came out in the 80s. So just growing up with that, like that kind of, playing with it later on in life, you think about it, kind of brings back those memories. And then I started collecting a little bit as I got older again, because I didn't have any of my stuff from when I was younger. So I started picking up some stuff here and there. It was kind of fun. Not really trying to build a collection, but I would buy lots to sell, and I'd find some cool stuff, and I'd just start collecting a little bit that way. So,
what was your very first figurine that you purchased as an adult?
Man, really? That's kind of hard. It probably had to be something like a horror figure. I remember NECA was coming out with stuff. I think maybe like the 18-inch, like Michael Myers.
Okay.
I kind of went away from toys as a teen and all that. Like, you don't mess with that. You mess with other stuff. So then when I finally got back into it, early 20s, it was probably some horror stuff, I would imagine. Okay. Yeah.
So then, now, if you had to pick an avenue of what you would say with figurines, what would you say, like, in the future? Where do you think it's going, the direction?
It continues to grow. And there's all these new companies popping up, so I think it's just going to continue to build. The only thing is, like, we've seen it with stuff like 80s stuff, people might start aging out of that, and then it'll kind of be 90s will be the next big thing, which we're starting to see now. And then eventually, it's going to be the early 2000s, for toys. Like, people that grow as they get older want to buy that stuff.
Right.
So I kind of see it continue to grow. Some of the bigger companies, I think they're kind of mass producing stuff too much now, and it kind of affects the market. But
the QC issues.
Yeah, people kind of get burnt out with collecting when you're putting out like reissues of stuff or repaints, and charging the same amount, and the price of everything keeps going up. But I don't see it going like crashing or anything like that. I think there's a big enough market to sustain it. Like, there's enough people out there. As long as you're not speculating, like the comic books and stuff.
Yeah, rumors.
Good. Yeah. As long as you're just kind of collecting what you like, what lines you like, and not necessarily buying it for an investment, it should be good.
Okay, and then speaking of that too, now, what would you say the difference with being an owner of a brick and mortar versus being an owner online?
Brick and mortar, the reason I wanted brick and mortar, this is just my personal opinion, was to actually interact with the customers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you could sit there and you could still have online and mortar, which you kind of need, which we do a little bit on eBay. We need to really expand our online, but also I wouldn't give up the brick and mortar.
Right.
I mean, that's interaction with customers. We've met a lot of cool people through here since we've been open.
Right, that's how I met you.
Yeah, that's how we met you. Yeah, somebody recommended you over here.
Yep.
And then now, good relationship now. But that's what it is. Yeah, the brick and mortar is just fun, and then stuff comes through here. You know, people bring stuff in for trade.
Okay.
So we come in, chop it up. We're not just come in, you need to be buying something. You know what I mean? Like, we like it. Come hang out. Come talk about stuff.
Have you thought about like maybe expanding like in other areas? Like as far as like, okay, well with the pop culture, I know that's going to involve a lot of things from figurines to records, comics and things like that. Have you ever thought about expanding in other areas with like making Polar Bears 2 a second store, or?
Maybe not a second store, what we're actually looking at now, because we kind of had a 5-year plan for it, but we're kind of outgrowing this spot. So what we would do, probably not a second location, it'd be a larger location. We've kind of already looked at some stuff right now. Nothing's really set. We're kind of figuring stuff out right now.
So like the main headquarters.
Yeah, we're still trying to build.
Right.
Yeah, we can get a bigger location, and then we can start maybe expanding also online, because we would have more room to kind of store stuff and maybe work out of the back room, things like that.
Gotcha.
But as far as another store, that's a possibility, just not now. I mean, we're only 2 years in, so it's kind of too quick.
Right, exactly.
There's other stuff like popping up now in the valley. Like, we went from not too many stores to like in the last few years, like stuff popping up now too. So you know, you don't want to oversaturate it either.
Speaking of that, you also brought up something interesting. So you were talking about, now we're sitting here now with the other co-owner here. His name is James. James is here representing Polar Bear Pop Culture Shop, the almighty Polar Bear Pop Culture Shop and everything. So let's talk a little bit about yourself and everything. So tell me a little bit about how you started out as far as with collecting.
Collecting, I was a child of the product of the 80s, you know. Started with just your random stuff that you would collect as kids, you know, G.I. Joe, Transformers, like Mad Balls was big for me, you know, back in the 80s and stuff. So I started out in the 80s. I'll get little things here and there, you know, birthdays, Christmas, gifts, stuff like that. But then I kind of got really big into it was in the 90s. My mom had got this job at this thrift store, and she would tell me, hey, you know, we just got in these G.I. Joes, like, you trying to get them? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll take those, you know, and she would get stuff that she thought I would like, and then, you know, ask me if I was into them. And during the time, I had got a job like cutting grass and like doing things like where I get like extra money, and I would go buy things, you know. I'd buy like the early Spawn toys, like the blue backs with the lightning bolts on them and stuff like that. And I would collect cards. I was real big into trading cards back then.
Okay.
Basketball to be specific. So
like the flare cards and everything?
All that. Everything. Like
gotcha.
Upper Deck, Skybox, Fleer, Tops, you know, SP was like a big deal.
Were you chewing the gum that was in there?
No, not very much into the sugar aspect of it. It was more like getting the the rookies and the inserts. And you know, at the time Shaquille O'Neal was just coming out in Upper Deck, and you would get that redemption card you would mail away. Yeah. So I was into stuff like that.
Okay. When you were getting into it with the collecting, so you went from figurines as being younger in the 80s, a child of the 80s, then into the 90s you started getting into the card scenes and everything else. Yep. And then now, going into the year with being in the 21st century now in the 2000s, what are you collecting right now?
Right now, it's pretty specific. I collect records. I collect A-Team, like vintage A-Team stuff, specifically like Mr. T items. I was collecting G1 Transformers. I kind of moved on from that, and I like collecting They Live memorabilia.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about how you collected vinyl.
Started again like in the 90s, you know, hip hop culture. I always wanted to get into DJing. Plus I would collect the music because I just like music in general.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
What was your first record you ever collected?
You know, that's a hard one because I don't really recall the first record that I ever got on my own, but I can tell you the first memorable record I ever bought. It was Razcast Soul on Ice, the LP, and I bought it from DJ Daryl D.
Wow.
For
Hold
$5.
Hold on. Okay, so you got Razcast Soul on Ice, first album, which to me, that was definitely a certified classic album. Tell me a little bit about your DJing.
I DJ with the group, the Phoenix Funketos, based out of Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
We've been around for about 5 years now.
Right.
It's Funk Machine, Gabe, and DJ Star Groove, which would be myself.
Okay.
And we are a Phoenix DJ collective. We spin nothing but vinyl, specializing in funk.
Keyword vinyl, people.
Yeah, OG wax. So,
Okay.
like the stuff back here.
That's what's up. What is your most favorite record to ever spin?
I would say Zap. The More Bounce to the Ounce.
Okay.
Mostly things from Zap. I think that's like one of my favorite groups. Real quick, I do want to say shout out to Trill, especially Chuck, because the records I did buy prior to the Soul on Ice, that's the first memorable record I ever bought. But the records that I would buy would be from Trill, and they'd be from like their dollar bin prior to that. So I did want to throw that in there because I did buy ones previous to that, but they didn't hit me as much as that Soul on Ice one. So I do want to touch on Trill and let the people know that Trill is a big staple in the culture, especially for Arizona.
That's what's up. Yeah, definitely. Get down with the business owners over there and everything. So shout out to Trill Clothing Records and everything. Matter of fact, I think they just had an anniversary and everything.
Yep.
Just like you all had your anniversary, a 2-year anniversary.
Yeah.
You know. Tell me a little bit how you got into the actual deciding to start selling figurines yourself in your collections.
Selling, it started about I'd say roughly about 15 years ago.
Okay.
When eBay was still pretty new. I'm not sure when eBay came out specifically, but I started buying off of eBay first. And the purchasing from eBay started where you had to send in a money order.
Okay.
And you would bid on items. You would send in a money order. You would wait like probably 3 weeks before you got anything as far as like product back or anything like that.
So you were in the early days of
eBay, yeah. And,
wow.
I would buy G.I. Joes again. I'd buy Transformers. I'd buy stuff that I never had that I really wanted. And the selling came around. I was transitioning from a job where I was doing artwork, or I should say I was starting to do artwork for a living. Was working at a job, FedEx office to be specific. And we decided to go full on with the artwork. And I needed something extra when the artwork wasn't really happening. I wanted to get extra money so that way I didn't have to hustle and bustle artwork all day, every day. And what I started doing is, with all the stuff that I collected over the years, I started selling on eBay, not just purchasing. And when I first started as a seller, I didn't make a lot of money because I was a new seller. So I had no seller history.
Right.
And on that first collection that I sold, I ended up kind of losing money because all the stuff I had purchased was things that I sold that were like new that I didn't really want anymore, and I didn't make too much money off of that.
What were you selling?
I was selling Transformers, but new Transformers. So not the stuff I was collecting, but stuff I would buy at Walmart, Target, Kmart was still around at the time. Toys R Us was around at the time. Things I would buy kind of full price.
You're Autobot or Decepticon fan?
I'm both. I like Decepticons more, but I do like Autobots as well too. But Decepticons for sure have the better.
Sorry, I just had to ask that question, my man.
Yeah, Constructicons, Devastator was probably my all-time favorite. But if you want to choose one specific robot, I would say Jetfire is like mine.
Okay. Okay, so you were selling, and then so you were mentioning about how you were actually losing money and everything.
In the beginning,
In the beginning, how did you switch from being an online seller to where you became into a brick and mortar? Tell me a little bit about that history.
All right, so it still entails the process. I started going to the swap meet, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Wednesdays, and accumulating massive amounts of toys. So back in the day, I was selling on eBay, but back in the day, you could go out to these swap meets and yard sales and things like that, Goodwills, and actually find good product, and it'd be vintage stuff, and it wasn't very costly at all at the time.
Okay.
So I was accumulating massive amounts of items and storing it at my apartment. We eventually outgrew the apartment, and I get a house, and we end up renting a house, getting enough space that we could store this product, and we have like a storage. We could put all these items into storage and pull them out when we wanted to sell them. So leaving the job at FedEx, I go full-time selling on eBay and doing the artwork, and I was making really good money selling on eBay.
So you're extra harder. You think, was it easier? So with the transition of both, from working for someone to becoming a business owner yourself, do you think it was a harder or easy, or a combination?
I think it was easy because I lived the culture. I'm not somebody that was getting into something saying, oh, this could be a resale opportunity. This is something that I think will work. No, I
wasn't a cash grab, basically.
No, I knew what I was buying. I knew what I liked. I knew things that were rare. And shout out to my partner. She's actually my girlfriend as well too, but Tian Pitts. We kind of came up in this. I was doing it first, but we grew together doing the business. So
definitely shout out to Miss Lady T.
Yeah, once we did the eBay online store, that was our first business. We took it very seriously. We made business cards. We opened up a booth at the Brass Armadillo, like with Jason, like was mentioning. That's kind of the path that we all went on, and once we started doing that, we considered that a brick and mortar because it was a place of business where people would go.
Right.
We would stock it. We would meet our customers. They would ask us if we had other items. We would build that relationship from there.
Going to now co-owning your shop together. What was that like to change from there? Sorry.
That was scary. Yeah, that was taking that leap of faith where now you're taking all responsibility. You're paying rent. You're putting in money for things that like a cash register with that charges fees. You're taking in extra.
A lot of overhead you had to deal with.
Overhead. All of that, buying, you got to buy new toys now, not just vintage, but you got to have the new stuff that people want.
Would you say it's easier to be a seller, or is it easier to be a business owner? Or and the second question is, which one would you prefer to stay?
I would say it's easier to be a seller because you don't have all the responsibility.
Okay.
If you do take this on full time, you basically are gonna live and die by how you work, how much work you put in, how quick your business can grow.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, before we opened with the partnership with Jason, we had a following from people online, at the Brass, at toy shows we would do. So they came right over.
They just followed you.
They just came right over. To start a business from scratch and not have a following, it can be pretty difficult, I would assume, if you don't have backers that are already knowing what you have and who you are, what kind of business you produce.
Now, let's talk about a little bit with the grand opening. So now you're in business, you're with Jason and everything, you and Tian all together. Your first sale. What was your first sale?
I can tell you about the first day.
Yeah, tell me about the first day.
The first day, our grand opening, we had a line all the way past the gym outside right there. Right next door to us is a fitness gym.
We're going to take pictures of that outside as well, people. So we're talking 3 doors away. Okay, so how many people would you say was in that
We're in
line?
line, probably about close to 40, 50 people.
50
in line.
people followed you over here.
Yep, and anticipated the opening of the shop. Some of my friends, people that we've done business with, and when they came in, our first day still is like one of like a record sales day.
Awesome.
So our first day, we started off really more vintage than modern. So we had a lot of vintage toys, a lot of vintage collectibles. We now are modern because we've sold a lot of those vintage toys. But our first day was really, really special. It was like something that you couldn't really script, where you can't, you don't know who's gonna come, like who's gonna, like what they're gonna buy, what's gonna happen. But our first day was like very successful for us, meeting people,
Right.
and also them coming to the shop and finding what they were looking for. So from the first sale day, me and Jason knew that we had something going. We knew what we were building. We based the store off of what we like. We based the store
Right.
off of things that we've seen from other places, meaning like I grew up in this toy game, like, so I, miss KB Toy Store and Toys R Us, and
Yes.
going
Yes.
shopping for nothing but toys at a toy store that's specific. So we wanted to put our own spin on what we feel is something that we like.
Okay. I kind of got you down packed, James. You are Jetfire, Mo Bounce It Down Zap,
Yep.
Razcast, Soul on Ice, and in addition, also Leonardo, your turtle.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if it came down to it, you had to be stranded on an island, and I'm sorry, I got to throw this stupid question out there because everybody always asks these questions.
Yeah.
You're trapped on the island. You can only have 5 things with you.
Yeah.
But this island has to be for you to have polar bear. What's the 5 things you would have on that island to be selling?
Definitely the music.
Okay.
That's the big staple in the store too. Like we always have music playing. Sundays it's Reggae Sunday.
Okay.
Most of the day it could be a mix between funk, 80s, new wave, soundtracks to movies, stuff like that. The only thing we really don't play is hardcore, like rap, because
Right.
of the content. But
Of course.
it would have to be music. It would have to be, if I had to choose one line specifically, I would be happy either selling just turtles per
Okay.
se, or anything like that I can relate to, so that I grew up from my childhood. So it'd be a G.I. Joe,
Okay.
a Ninja Turtle, or a Transformer.
Okay, so you got 2 things right
Yeah.
there you want to sell. What's the other 3? Because remember, this is a pop culture shop, so
Yeah.
you sell everything.
Yep.
What else? What's number 3?
Clothing. You gotta have some clothing. People can't be running around out there without no clothes,
That's what's up.
So, definitely clothing. I would say the comic books,
Okay.
and
And number 5, what is it?
say, last but not least, the artwork.
Okay.
Always have some artwork hanging from palm trees or something.
Tell me a little bit about your influences with the artwork.
Influences. I was influenced by comic book art early
Okay.
on, so I think every kid kind of starts to draw like from comics and stuff like that. Frank Frazetta for sure, 100%. And then a lot of graffiti artists that I grew up either watching or getting to.
Damn, that shit was dope.